Welcome to the Full Vantage podcast. I have my boy.
Yes,
Oh my
sir.
gosh. My boy TJ is here with me, and you guys need to know TJ for a lot of reasons. One, we've been friends for like 7 years.
Yeah.
We keep getting asked that. How long have you known TJ?
I know.
7 years, bro.
It's been nice to meet like all your people here.
It's been great. TJ's staying with us for a few days, and it's really cool. The cool thing about TJ is he has been in the Coast Guard for 9 years. He's out of it now. You were a lieutenant in the Coast Guard.
I was.
You were like leading a whole massive boat when I met you. I want to dive into the Coast Guard, but then also when you get on the other side of the Coast Guard, life
Yeah.
keeps going.
It definitely does. And, I feel like I've lived like multiple lives at this point. And it's definitely been a drastic change from, being told what to do, what to wear, where to live, what job to have, to full-time freelance. But we can start from the beginning. I joined the Coast Guard in 2014. And from there, went to the Coast Guard Academy, where I, was doing the full military, full student, full athlete thing for 4 years.
What sport?
I played lacrosse.
You're a lax
I
boy.
was a lax
Bro.
Yeah. So played lacrosse, and it was definitely a challenging point of my life. Just dealing with all three aspects was a lot to manage at first, but I made a lot of cool friends through it. Had a lot of cool experiences that a 18 to 22-year-old doesn't normally get to have. Did a lot of cool projects and experiences on different platforms, on different boats, and it really kind of made me grow up like a lot faster than I feel like the normal college route would. You were kind of thrown in the thick of it, and there, after the Coast Guard Academy, I was commissioned as an officer, and then stationed in St. Pete, and that's where our lives kind of collided.
That's where we met, my dude.
Yeah.
Flat bread and butter.
I know, right?
Bodega.
Bandit.
Beach.
Black Crow. Bridgepoint.
All the things.
All the
Downtown St.
things.
Petersburg, Tampa.
One
The
of my
Trop.
favorite places to this day. I
Same.
absolutely love St. Pete, and visiting. And luckily, while I was there, one of my intentions was to kind of separate my professional life and my personal life. And I saw that you were a Tennessee boy, right down the street from where I live downtown, and I was able to, get plugged in like early through my local and whatnot. Really helped, and it really established community early on in St. Pete, and helped kind of manage both the Coast Guard aspect of my life at the time, and then like my spiritual aspect. So just to speak to like my spiritual aspect, was raised in church. My mom and dad still serve to this day, and it's like one of the most important aspects to me because they set such a precedent. And from there, I went to the Coast Guard Academy, like I said, and I didn't stop believing, but it definitely was a period of time where I wasn't practicing as much because we were confined to base for, at least the first couple years. And, military church is a different beast.
Dude, I don't even think many people even know that the Coast Guard's a part of the military.
Oh, yeah. It's
Like, what does, because even jump in as you kind of share, like, even just your spiritual journey.
Yeah.
What is the Coast Guard for people? Because, we've talked about this. It's like, oh, man, I know what you do now.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the Coast Guard is so cool. Just real quick, like, what's the Coast Guard? What do you guys even do? What'd you do for 9 years?
Yeah. So the Coast Guard's, it's interesting. It falls in the Department of Homeland Security. Our main missions are search and rescue. We facilitate like a law enforcement aspect for the military. That's the main reason why we're still part of the Department of Homeland Security. And while I was in, I was the weapons officer and law enforcement officer on a cutter. That's what
That
we
sounds
call
cool.
our boats.
That sounds cool.
And we mainly did counter narcotics, like a law enforcement mission in the Pacific. So for the first couple years, that was the role that I filled. And the Coast Guard in general, you know, we operate all over the U.S. and have units in other countries too for training and whatnot, but mainly on U.S. soil, which is nice. It was an aspect that I enjoyed when looking into what service I wanted to join. I liked the humanitarian aspect of the Coast Guard too, the operational aspect where, you know, we're not training for war, we're training to, you know, do operational tasks every day, search and rescue. You know, you always see the Coast Guard in like hurricanes or natural disasters, stuff like that. And then the law enforcement aspect, I grew up, my father was a police officer, so it was cool to kind of, you know, relate to him in that way. And I did a lot of counter narcotics, like I said, and migrant interdiction while I was on the boat. So
That's so cool. Okay, so that's a little bit about what the Coast Guard did, what you did, and I think it's really important for people kind of as we paint this picture and you just kind of reveal what's been going on, because I believe there's so much still you're going to be doing with your life. So I think it's cool to have that like 9 years of, you know, Coast Guard. And you were talking about kind of your faith and military church. And so maybe jump back into that, because now that we have an idea, it'd be great to kind of hear about your, like, where you were headed with talking about your faith, man.
yeah, so while
And by the way, you have a great mustache.
thank you.
I hope people are watching
appreciate
this on video because you have a great mustache.
I appreciate it. My mom would beg to differ. But anyway, so yeah, while I was at the Coast Guard Academy, you're kind of confined to base. And, you know, they have a chapel on base and whatnot, but it's very rudimented, just like the rest of the Coast Guard is. And it was kind of hard to build a community spiritually while I was at the academy. And then when the first chance that I got when I got to St. Pete, that was like the first order of action, right? Was like, I need to get plugged into a church. And literally, parents helped me move into my apartment downtown. And that weekend, we tried Bridgepoint out. And
That's where I met you and your sister
that's where I met
and your
you.
parents. I don't think your brother was there. Maybe he
yeah,
was.
He
I don't.
might have been. I
don't know.
don't remember, but yeah. So got plugged in with you, and you know, seeing that you were from Tennessee and whatnot, it just made sense. So got plugged in. My local happened, and it really jump started me back into practice with my faith and back into surrounding myself with like-minded people, community again, and you know, I absolutely fell in love with pursuing God again. And after that, while I was in St. Pete, every 2 months I'd go out to sea.
Yeah.
And that,
you were gone all the time.
Yeah, and that was a really hard aspect of my life at the time because I just made this awesome community, right? And I was like, oh, sweet, I have all these friends now that aren't attached to the Coast Guard, that don't really know what I do, and I can kind of separate that aspect of my life. But every 2 months I'm going to be gone. And so at first, I really dealt with a lot. I struggled a lot with, okay, 2 months is a long time to go without talking to people and with, people's lives move on. And I came back, hoping that everything would still be the same. I'd still have the same friends and whatnot. But life goes on. It doesn't take a pause when I was out at sea. But I think, rooted in faith, the friends that I made, I would come back time and time again, and would be able to pick up exactly where I left off, and that was, a really awesome aspect. Because I was gone every 2 months, I would come back and my local might not be in session, and I became kind of like a church hopper because I was trying to fill that void.
Just so hungry.
Yeah, trying to fill that void of community and whatnot, and was searching after, and that's how I became involved with reality too. And then the worlds kind of collided with people going to both. At the time, I feel like St. Pete was really seeing a movement in the young adult community.
Yeah, so my local, just for everybody real quick, my local in reality were college young adult communities. that a friend of ours started Reality, and we kind of helped him out. We served with him.
Shout out JT.
JT, and so we were kind of just, it was this tight knit group of people, like you said, movement. And so I just thought it was a good idea to maybe even just share. And then my local was also that as well. So.
Yeah, and so like when I would come back, I had to be a part of everything I could possibly get my hands on, because I knew that my time was kind of finite. Every 2 months I'd be gone. So during that 2 months, I'd fill myself with whatever I possibly could, like whether that be go to multiple sessions of my local or multiple sessions of Reality. And, through that, I was able to make, a lot of like lifelong friends that, after the Coast Guard to this day, I still maintain, just like with you. So it really kind of set me on fire with, surrounding myself with people that were like-minded, and honestly didn't necessarily have the same background that I did, but through like our beliefs and whatnot, we were able to connect on a level that, is long lasting to this day. So that really helped me cope with leaving out to sea every 2 months.
No, yeah, and it was early in your life too.
Mm-hmm.
What I loved, or what I love currently about you, is how well you are connecting with people, just across the country, and you keep relationships better than most. You're kind of used to moving around a lot or traveling a lot, and you keep really good close relationships. How do you view like that? How do you keep such good relationships, even though you may not be like physically around them?
Yeah. So I want to backtrack and go into the kind of like identity crisis I had while I was in St. Pete. So while I was in St. Pete, there was a sermon, actually. It was like a kickoff sermon for the leadership of my local. And I remember you giving it, and you were trying to speak to like teamwork and how everyone has their own role to play, like in terms of their strengths and weaknesses. And you said, I like hung on to this part because I base my life on being well-rounded, but you said that the biggest lie that you can be told is that you have to be well-rounded. And for me, I took that personally because like throughout my life, whether that be my childhood, in high school, I remember being the guy who didn't really have like the one like clique of friends. I kind of fit in everywhere because I have so many like interests. And to this day, I still kind of hang on to that. I have a tight-knit group of friends now, but vastly different backgrounds. But at the time when you said that the biggest lie that you could be told is that you had to be well-rounded, to me, at the time I was surrounding myself with people that had their thing that they were pursuing, that they were good at, that they dedicated their lives for. And I felt like I didn't have like the one thing that I was like good at, right? And so it really like spiraled me because everyone around me had their thing that they dedicated their lives towards, or that they've been spending a lot of time focusing on, perfecting. And for me, I've always been, okay, how do I like make myself as well-rounded as possible? That's how I got into the Coast Guard Academy, right? And
that's the whole point, right? Yeah. Getting in the Coast Guard, the point is to be the best at everything. Mm-hmm. And if you can be the best at everything, just like all the other military academies, then you can be in a leadership position. That's exactly. A kind of a way to grade people.
Yeah, exactly. But it kind of sent me into a spiral, and I remember just thinking to myself, like, what am I good at? Like, how do I navigate through this period of life where, I'm proficient at everything. They always say like jack of all trades, master of none. Like that was
I hate that.
Yeah, but that's literally how I felt. And so I did a lot of prayer and a lot of talking with mentors. And I remember meeting with you at Flatbread and Butter, and we talked about it the other day. But that moment really touched me because the one thing that you said was, okay, I want you to take a step back. And I think that a quality that you have that you probably don't even value is the fact that you've been here at the time I've been in St. Pete for about a year, out to sea every 2 months, so 6 months actually in St. Pete.
So
And
not in St. Pete very much.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So the 6 months total in St. Pete, and I was kind of able to like ground myself with community. And you said that one of the biggest strengths that you view that I have is my ability to maintain relationships and, you know, connect with people on a level that's, you know, personal, that's comforting, that's trustworthy. And, you know, that, when you said that, it kind of like blew my mind, because that is like kind of like a soft trait that most people don't take as like a hard skill. It's not a hard skill, right? And so after that, like my whole world kind of turned around, and I like placed myself in a position where, okay, that's what I'm good at. I'm good with people. And after that, it was like God was trying to prove to me that that's what I was good at. And there was like very like distinct circumstances that I was in that, you know, it was like God was trying to tell me like, okay, you are great with people, like maintaining relationships. And to go back to your question of like, how do I do that? I think I try to be as proactive as possible with, you know, even if I'm not tangibly there with someone, even if I'm like not currently in that season of life with that person, like physically, I make it apparent to know that, like, let them know that I care, and let them know that, you know, I'm still thinking of them and whatnot. That's something that, you know, has always been on my heart, whether you're not presently with me. You could be across the country. There's people that I've met twice that, you know, I maintain a relationship with to this day. And it's really allowed me to, you know, broaden my horizons in terms of, you know, who I let impact my life and who I can impact. So for me, I just try to be as proactive as possible about maintaining those relationships, even if I'm not tangibly there.
No, that's good. And there's so many ways to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's, if you are intentional to think through all the different ways, and it doesn't have to be much. I think I've heard you say, you know, some of my best friends I may not talk to for months, but we always pick up where we left off.
Mm-hmm.
And we always check in, and we always connect when we can. And it's like you don't put, I've noticed you do this, you don't put a ton of like expectations on others,
Mm-hmm.
but you do put some on yourself.
Yes.
Which I think is an honorable, valuable thing.
Yes.
In some ways, and it could be maybe detrimental in others.
Yeah. Sometimes, you know, at first I think one of the biggest...
You are hard on yourself too, though.
Exactly. One of the biggest lessons that I learned through friendships, through relationships growing up is you can't expect someone to output the same amount of effort, love, whatever you want to call it. You can't expect them to output as much as you do, because people love different, right?
Yeah.
People accept love different, and they output love different. So one of the biggest lessons that I personally had to learn was, you know, I might think like this. I might, you know, output effort like the way that I do. But it can't be, you can't have the expectation of it being reciprocated. And then back to your point with me being hard on myself, I am my worst enemy when it comes to some of that stuff. And, you know, I really have to ground myself and try to have a deeper understanding for how I operate personally, so that I, you know, can take a step back and not let it affect me as much. And back to kind of me not having an initial click, and being, you know, all over the place in terms of interests. I think God made me that way because I'm able to relate to anyone I talk to. So, you know, I'm the type of person that I pick up a skill, or I pick up some kind of hobby, I learn it to proficiency, and then I move on to the next thing. That's just how I've always operated.
Yeah.
I can do just about anything, but again, I'm hard on myself, and I have a standard where, you know, I might be good at something to other people, but to me, I'm like, oh, I can get by with it. I can do it. But it's not like I wouldn't consider it like a strength of mine. But I think God made me so interested in so many different things in life, so many different hobbies and, you know, passions, because I'm able to relate to people on a different level. No matter who I talk to, I'm able to find some kind of common ground. And so that well-roundedness kind of like catalyzed me being able to, make the relationships that I do, make people feel comfortable, and be able to talk to whoever I encounter in life.
No, and whoever you encounter in life, I've seen you actually make an impact on their life, no matter how old they are. Whoever, I think, yes. But how old? Now, that's a unique skill. And I think I remember when you learned a little bit about it, because it was in that same conversation at Flatbread and Butter, which is was a great coffee shop in St. Pete. It's kind of like a really small but really good like find for us. And I think it was that same conversation. And dude, first off, such an honor to be able to share, things that have impacted me and hear that they've impacted you. And that's a huge blessing to me. And as I think about moments like that, I remember you being like, hey, you were like, I think you were 24, 3.
Not even.
You were 22.
22.
You were 22 at the time. So you're 22, and you are in charge of this huge vessel.
Yes, one of the officers on this vessel.
Yeah. And there was guys much, much older than you that were on that vessel, that were underneath you, and that have been doing it much longer than you. And I remember you talking to me about, I just remember us talking about you dealing with that.
Yeah.
And managing that. How do you manage leading somebody, or how did you manage leading? Because it was like you were 22 and you were leading somebody that was 40.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of it, I feel like personally it definitely came with its struggles, but I came from a place of vulnerability in any aspect of leadership that I experienced in the Coast Guard. I didn't want to make it I outrank you. This is what, because of that, like make it like a positional thing. Yeah. I think that's like super vital in any kind of leadership position that you're in, right? Because it's a team effort. It's especially when you're dealing with people that have been doing it for forever, and you come into this position, you're like, hey guys, like I'm in charge, like you have to approach it in a way that, I came at it from a position of, learning. Like, yes, I might have the positional authority, but they have the experience. They have the know-how, and they're the subject matter experts. So for me, it was a lot of, okay, let me approach this from a situation of vulnerability. Like, we are a team, and I want to make sure that, I'm doing everything to the best of my ability and gaining respect in that sense. Making sure that, I'm taking all of their advice, all their criticism on both sides into account, and, allowing that to kind of be what fosters the relationship on a professional level. So for me, I think, it definitely came with its challenges, but I like to think that I would approach a situation where where I was in a leadership position, I would approach the situation from a position that is, teachable.
Wow. I think, well, first off, I love that. I think someone that stays teachable is somebody that can always grow. And we can learn from everybody. If we stay teachable, I can learn from a 5-year-old, or I can learn from a 50-year-old. I can learn from the person that has no clue what I'm talking about, or I can learn from somebody who is a master or whatever. And it's like, I think that type of curiosity helps at a time.
Yeah.
Like, and then what if you just sought to understand where that person's coming from?
Exactly. Yeah. I think, in leadership for me, my philosophy has always been, as a servant leader, like I would never tell anyone to do something that I wouldn't do myself or help out with myself. And, them being the subject matter experts, it was just easy for me to kind of, yes, positionally, I might outrank you, but you know more than me, and I respect that you know more than me. I am going to place myself in a position to, help where I can and gain the respect that, that comes with being a leader through showing that, I'm willing to do what you're doing. I'm willing to learn from you as a leader, So I think, in any aspect of leadership, you can learn from whoever is on your team. And I really like that aspect of, being a part of a team, whether you're the leader, whether you're the supporter, whatever role that you fill, like there's always an understanding of, this is what the mission that we're trying to accomplish, this is the goal that we're trying to accomplish. How can we work there together?
No, that's great. Where does that come from, though? Because you said a word that I've heard quite a bit, but I don't think many people hear much, which is the combo package of servant leader.
Mm-hmm.
Where does that come from? Because it can come from a myriad, many different places for you, but where does that come from for you personally?
I think for me personally, foundationally, it comes from how my parents led in our family. My father and mother have always been very impactful and incredible servant leaders in my life and in others. So I was able to not only witness that in my life as I was being raised, but also how they were able to implement that in any position that they were in. So with my father, he has always been such a rock and a foundation for not only my family, but for whatever environment he was in. He was a police officer for 20 years and was able to impact, many lives while he was in the service. And then my mother has served her whole life in church, and just being able to witness the impact that they have on others in the form of servant leadership, it allowed me to, have a great example for when I was dealing with any kind of situation that required me to kind of step up and, take that place.
If somebody doesn't have that model, because it was modeled for you,
Mm-hmm.
which is so sick. If someone doesn't have that model, how would you encourage them to, or why would you encourage them to think about becoming, instead of a tyrannical or tyrant leader, a hierarchical leader that tells people what to do? And what I hear from you is you build teams.
Mm-hmm.
And you found that the best way to build a team is to be teachable, to invite people in to give their opinion, to be the experts in the subject matter that they are an expert in, and to own their expertise.
Mm-hmm.
And it was modeled for you. Your parents did that. They laid down their life, so to speak, for you guys. So I think it's really powerful and beautiful if you think about what can happen when people come together that are not the same.
Mm-hmm.
And that have different expertise. So if somebody hasn't had that modeled to them, how do they become like that, in your opinion?
I think it's just, taking the time to take a step back, right, and evaluate the people that you're dealing with, and truly being transparent and vulnerable with whoever is on your team, and understanding where they're coming from, what they're doing, and having the understanding that everyone comes from different backgrounds, and like you said, they don't have not everyone is as fortunate as I to have such role models in their lives. But if you have the emotional intelligence and the cognitive understanding that people are different inherently, and people have their strengths and weaknesses, people have their different backgrounds, experiences that affect how they live life. If you take a step back and evaluate how people operate in each sense on a team or to accomplish a goal or a mission, I think relationally, you garner a lot more respect and understanding for how they do things. And so for me, it's super important to understand people and to try to relate in a certain way and to find common ground. And I think that is how you approach any situation like that. To be a servant leader, you need to understand the people that you're working with.
No, it's so good. And if we want somebody to respect us and hear us and trust us and follow us and listen to us. Fill in the blank for anything else you'd like that you would like for somebody to do. We better do that and model that for them.
Mm-hmm. Respect is earned.
It
right?
is totally, and it's earned by them seeing you do that for them.
Mm-hmm.
Respect them.
Yeah,
Listen
exactly.
to them. Hear from them. And dude, I'm pretty sure the reference is like, I think it's Matthew 7:12, but it's like, you know, in the Bible, it's like, it's funny because the golden rule is kind of like across humanity in a little ways. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. But it's actually in the Bible, like God said it, like Jesus said it. And
it's funny because a lot of people are like,
no,
oh, it's just the golden rule.
And it's like, well,
biblical.
Yeah, it's like, it's actually spiritual.
Yeah.
You know, it's like biblical, it's spiritual, it's eternal.
Yeah.
You can actually make an eternal impact if you begin to practice the simplicity of the golden rule. And it's like, this is the essence of a lot of the Bible.
Yeah.
But this is the essence of spirituality, of following Jesus. He tried to model it for us. And I cut you off, but like, what were you about to say right there?
Yeah, that's just like one of the ways that I like connect with people too, is I feel like, you know, I need to be proactive about providing like a sense of comfort and understanding and trustworthiness by understanding where they come from, by understanding, you know, how they operate, how they think, how they feel. And I try to be, you know, as proactive as possible about understanding that. And I feel like that plays an active role in how I maintain relationships too. Not only like my leadership style, but also like how I just maintain friendships, relationships, and how, you know, in any situation I'm in, I can, you know, provide that for someone. Because for me, like, it's all about like serving others. It's all about loving others. And, you know, if I can do that alone, then, you know, I'm fulfilling my purpose. I feel like I was put on this earth to love, and that's like my soul like being, and I feel like that's why God made me the way I am, because my impactfulness on others is shown through the way that I care and the way that I love.
It's so obvious too, man. Like I love that about you, and I see that. I totally see that in you. And the first step in loving somebody is just hearing.
Mm-hmm.
Is just hearing where they are, who they are, what they're about, where they want to go, who they want to be, what they've done, and what they're passionate about.
Yeah.
It's
hearing
like,
that
if we could just hear, hearing, accepting, and like, and a part of the accepting is like, okay, I understand.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm cool with that.
Yeah, and that's okay.
Yeah, and that's okay. And then I can now bring that up, further conversation. We can go hang out and do something together that they like, which is why you're a jack of all trades, is because you're willing to go, like, well, you want to go snowboard? Let's go. You know, like, you want to go make something. You want to go.
You want to talk about music?
Yeah,
you want to talk about
video, photography. You want to talk about military.
Yeah.
You want to talk about, just a crazy amount of things. Because, man, like, as you look back on those 9 years, what's the one takeaway?
As I look back on the 9 years, I would say the one takeaway is, you know, really the relationships that I cultivated and maintained while I was in. And I feel like, you know, the lessons that I've learned, whether that be establishing that people love differently, and that you can't expect people to, you know, reciprocate what you put out, that aspect of a relationship is a big takeaway that I had while I was in. And then also just the proactiveness of maintaining relationships through, like, even if you're not tangibly there with someone, you can make it a point to show that you care, especially with technology nowadays. Like, I can make it apparent that I care, you know, just by sending a text to someone. If I can make someone's day to let them know that I'm thinking about them, then that I feel like that day is a success, because I really make it apparent to make sure that the people that I interact with in life are, impacted by the love that I output. And I would say that was the biggest like takeaway, is like being able to establish that I have an impact and I have a strength of maintaining those relationships. And, if I can show love, God's love through me, if he can use me as a vessel to show his love, then, that is the purpose in life, right? For me, that is what I was called to do.
No, it's so good. That's amazing, actually, because you're really good at showing up. And
that's all it takes.
You're great at showing up. What I think is really cool is, most of this conversation has been about those 9 years in the military, those 9 years in the Coast Guard, and that's awesome. But guess what? You can't live there anymore.
Yeah.
You out, bro.
Yeah.
You are out. And so, okay, now you have written that book.
Mm-hmm.
You've closed it, and you've learned from it.
Yep.
We're writing a new book now.
Yes.
Okay. Yes, we are. That's why I'm getting to hang out with you.
In progress.
Yeah, we in progress. So I think it's really fascinating and refreshing for me personally, to learn from somebody in progress, because I want to stay in progress.
Mm-hmm.
I think when we stop growing, we start regressing. We start moving backward if we're going to stop growing. We start settling, and then just everything falls apart, and let's move forward. And so as you move forward, what I do know is that you are really building a business that looks nothing like the military.
Yeah.
It doesn't look anything like the military. Describe what you're doing now as you press this massive red reset button on your life and you move forward.
Yeah. So after the military, the back end of the military, I spent 3 years in corporate marketing and consulting, basically, for the DoD. And I'm super grateful for that experience while I was in.
What's the DoD?
The Department of Defense.
There we go.
Yeah, sorry. Speaking of acronyms,
you're
military.
Good. You're good. That's pretty typical. You got a book of acronyms.
Yeah, exactly. I can spew out a bunch for you if you want. But anyway, so I worked for the Department of Defense, and it was a marketing role. And it was honestly the perfect transition for me into what I'm doing now, because it provided me with a lot of high-level experience and a lot of big budget, managerial, team building experience in the marketing space. And now I'm pursuing, a full-time freelance career in marketing and social media management and media in general, videography and photography. And it was the perfect kind of shift into that. But now it's a completely different lifestyle, right? So I went from, the military deciding what I wear, where I go, what job I have, where I live, every aspect of my life. And now I have all the freedom in the world, and I'm trying to learn still how to navigate through that, because, I went from being told what to do and what to wear and how to live to, the complete opposite, the ultimate, you have all the freedom in the world to do whatever you want. What are you going to do? And so there was a long period. I remember, establishing that I was getting out and, trying to figure out what that's going to look like. And, I've never been in a situation like this before in life. And I was in a period of, and I still kind of am, in a period of uncomfortability, because I have to rely on myself to make those decisions. And so I think the transition, it kind of set me up. God kind of laid the foundation for me to do this, because I was like, okay, first off, let's establish where I'm going to live, right? I don't even know. I'd love to move back to St. Pete. I was dead set on doing that at first. And I kind of had to evaluate, okay, what am I going to do there? Like, if I do that. And so, family's always been like one of the most important aspects to me. And I have a buddy who is in the media space, in the marketing space, that lived in Nashville. And just so happened, it was a godsend, just so happened that he had a room for me to rent. And I hit him up, and we, kind of game planned the idea of me living with him and whatnot. And it made like perfect sense for me to move to Nashville at the time, because the whole house is in like the freelance media space. So on a professional stance, we're able to bounce ideas off each other, collaborate with each other, and it really
learn.
And learn. It really inspired me to be as creative as possible. It created an environment for creativity and for building like and learning so many different like skills that I had to either refresh on or completely learn from scratch that the military didn't necessarily teach me. And not only that, but the whole household also is very rooted in their spirituality. So being in an environment where it's creative, and like the passion is creativity and the passion is also, faith-based. It really provided me with an outlet to pursue what I'm doing now. And not only that, I live an hour and a half away from my family. So it was like Nashville was built for me to move there after my time was done in the Coast Guard. So I've been establishing, it's been 7 months now, and I am still in like the freelance space and am working on growing that. And that's come with its own roadblocks, its own challenges, because it's a completely new space to me. And like we established like early on, like I am my own worst enemy. I'm super hard on myself, and I have to like take a step back a lot of times and evaluate like how I'm thinking and how I'm operating, because some days I'll get super down on myself and be like, okay, like I might not be making as much as I was in the Coast Guard. I might not like have the direction that the Coast Guard kind of lays out for you. Like what do you do on a day-to-day? Like how do you operate? How do you set up a schedule and build a plan to build and to grow, to learn? So those are all like things that I have to constantly like be proactive about, whereas in the Coast Guard I could just be like, oh, like they're going to tell me where I'm going to live. They're going to tell me what job I have to do. I don't really have to think about those aspects. So now I'm kind of navigating through how to like operate, how to function like as a completely as an individual, as a human that can like establish those different like things that we take for granted. And it's been, I'm still like learning and, taking in as much as I can. And as opportunities arise, like I'm in a period of life where I'm saying yes to everything. Like I am saying yes to any like work that I can do, any travel that I can do, any experience that I can have. And, it's really opened me up to be able to learn at a pace that I feel like I wouldn't be able to if I was, locked into pursuing something that, I might not be passionate about, but it might financially support me, or it might, be similar to the lifestyle that I had in the Coast Guard in terms of like the like set in stone like route to take, whether you're climbing the corporate ladder or establishing a position where you're kind of comfortable in being told what to do and whatnot.
Yeah. Okay, so here's a few things I'm hearing, because I think this is unbelievably really good as you process. Okay, what I hear you saying is Nashville and all of the things that you're doing have come together for this moment. And if somebody has a dream, if somebody is wanting to press reset, you can actually activate that ahead of time. Mm-hmm. You don't just have to retire out of the military.
Yeah.
We were talking the other day at lunch with a guy one of our friends, new friends, and he's talking about what he wants to do, and he's not doing it really at all.
Mm-hmm.
And what's cool is you're in process right now, and you were able to so powerfully and practically help him because you can identify with him.
Mm-hmm.
You can relate to him. You can show empathy to him and support him with things that you have learned, because pretty quickly, it's 7 months.
Yeah.
That's not very long.
Yeah, I have to remind myself of that all the time.
Yeah. Don't forget, it's just 7 months, bro. You're going somewhere. 7 months, and like I'm hearing you say, like, it's who you're surrounding yourself with. It's taking a step of faith and actually doing the thing,
Mm-hmm.
and beginning to build the habits to do the thing, not being afraid to ask questions and learn and be inspired, but also what I'm also hearing, and I didn't hear you say this, but I'm hearing you also be challenged
Mm-hmm.
by what they're doing and their work and their productivity and legitimacy and professionalism.
Yeah,
and then
exactly.
they're inviting you on the journey, and you're open to say, like, hey, I'll help you
Yeah.
in whatever project you have. And when you're helping a friend and that's in the same industry, then you get so far ahead, because
Yeah.
what have you found out? That it's very, very relational.
Yeah.
Like it's very, very relational.
Yeah, even the work that like I am getting now, my 2 retainer clients that I have are from a relationship that I made while I was in the Coast Guard. So like that alone is like another example of how through relationships while I was in the Coast Guard, it was like God was like kind of setting the foundation and the building blocks for me to do what I'm doing now. I was able to, pick up some work from one of my buddies. It was like I came at the perfect time. He was like, hey, like I have a lot of work right now that I don't have the capacity to do. Like, can you take this from me? And it was like the perfect situation, because like normally in the freelance world, you have to start from square one. You have to start from, building a portfolio, taking whatever project you can and establishing, your own kind of legitimacy, where I was able to, through the relationships that I made, kind of establish like some work early on. And, super grateful, because like that didn't even come from me living in Nashville. Like that's a connection I made in St. Pete, and I'm super grateful for that, and it has provided me at least with like the financial stability that I need to like get by, and it provided me with an outlet to have the time to learn and the time to accept, offer my help wherever I can to accept whatever opportunity comes up in life. So I think, I'm super grateful for the ability to be able to maintain those relationships. And even the guy that I move in with, before moving in with him, I think I've met him twice in life, like in LA. And just so happened to be in the same industry as me, moved to, a city that's close to my hometown. And, I might have only met him twice, but just the ability to maintain relationships and show that you care allowed me to start a life, like a brand new life after the Coast Guard. And super grateful. And it was like a God thing.
Dude, so cool. I think you can say, yes, totally God thing, timing, all this stuff. But I think you can also say that because you're taking steps of faith.
Mm-hmm.
And I think what's key for just everyone listening, even for myself included, is right now, and you said you're just getting by.
Yeah.
Like there's got to be some seasons where we just get by.
Yeah.
Where we put in the hustle.
Mm-hmm.
Where we figure it out. Where we pray. Where we see God come through, and we get to give Him credit for it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, oh, like I actually don't. This doesn't have to just be a getting by season. It can also be like who I am in the non-getting by season too. But I want you to touch on like the negative of what we just talked about, because like you and I are super positive. We believe the best in people.
Yeah.
We don't think people are going to use each other.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not trying to use anybody, but I don't hear you saying that either. But you know how sometimes people will be like, oh, see, look, all you have to do is get in with the right people, use them to get a job, use them to get knowledge, use them, and then you're done with them once you get all of that stuff.
Yeah.
Like, speak to the negative side, because that's not good motive even at all.
Yeah, not at all.
You have zero. You're building zero trust, and honestly, people are like, that's obvious.
Yeah, and it's honestly, it's unfortunate because I feel like a lot of times, like, people, it's almost human nature, unfortunately, to, take advantage of whatever like situation that you're in for your own benefit. Like, a lot of times, relationships with people are viewed as like transactional, like it's a give and a take, which it's a balance, right? Like, and this goes back to like the expectation that you place on relationships. And I feel like for me, I don't value my friends and the people in my life, the people that I choose to maintain relationships with. I don't value them by what they can give me, and I try to make that apparent. And whatever situation I'm in, whether, that friend chooses to help me with something I'm going through, or teaching me a lesson that, helps me either professionally or relationship or spiritually, I try to make it apparent that I am not in this for whatever you can offer me. And, on a negative stance, I feel like, a lot of people have to understand that you can't like approach relationships. Relationships will not last if you approach them from a transactional stance where you only are seeking what they have to offer you.
No, exactly. And if you look at your friend group right now, how do you be a good friend to them and keep the right motive?
Yeah. For me, it's really just about how I choose to, output no matter how much they are inputting into my life. I want to make sure that whoever I interact with in life, that I am being as caring and as understanding and as loving as possible. And that even like speaks to like how I approach like evangelism, right? For me, it's all about, how much energy can I place into being a light, or into, showing someone that, it's not about like what you have to offer. It's about like you maintaining a relationship in a way that is untransactional, is, how do I say this?
Unconditional.
Yeah, unconditional.
Unconditional. There's no conditions based off of our relationship. We're going to be in a relationship.
Yeah,
as long as you want to be in a relationship.
Exactly.
We're not putting conditions on this bad boy.
Yeah, yeah. I love that.
It's not based on the weather.
I mean, isn't that how like Jesus operated?
That's exactly right. It's just, and that kind of unconditional love leads to unconditional friends. One of my favorite things when we talk about greatness, when we talk about like the greatness of love, is Jesus says, no greater love than this, than one lay down his life for his friends. Like, that sounds like serving.
Yeah.
That sounds like servant leadership. But dude, like what also that does is that allows you to put the expectations on yourself in such a way that you're not worried about the outcome, because you're doing and you're being who you need to be for them, and the outcome will come. And not everybody is going to stay our friend, but you know what will happen if we focus on being and having the right character? We will find those that need to be our friend.
Yeah. And
it's not about everybody being our friend.
Exactly.
It's about finding the right ones.
Yeah, and whether it's like a season of life, like I've had friends that are seasonal friends, but through them I've made connections that are long lasting. Yeah. And I didn't approach this situation. I didn't approach that friendship inherently to like meet other people so that I can find those friends that are unconditional. Not at all.
Yeah.
But you can't, like you said, you can't expect to be friends with everyone. You can't expect to maintain friendships with everyone, but you can be as proactive as possible to be as loving, caring, and understanding. And those friends will come to light. Those friends will show themselves.
And if we believe the best for everyone, it keeps our heart in the right position.
Yeah, I
Like,
agree.
hey, it's not their fault. It's all
Yeah.
good. They got something going on, or they're going here or going there, and it'll be okay.
Yeah.
If we believe the best, then my heart is open to who needs to be in my life, and I'm not worried about who's not.
Yeah. It's
And
all about
I'm
like
freed
understanding.
up. Yeah,
Yeah.
understanding and just being freed up. So like, I think this conversation we were talking about this, how valuable you are in this moment you are, because, what is success? What is making it?
Yeah.
And, the hustle, the excitement, the joy, the intensity at which you're living right now, the freedom of going everywhere and doing everything you can to take opportunities that are valuable, and surrounding yourself with great people and listening and learning, and then carrying like your teachableness from the military and being in the Coast Guard into today. Like, all of these things are coming together, and they allow you to reset.
Yeah.
That they allow you to say, I'm still in process, and they allow you to stay in process. Why ever leave? And we can keep taking moments of reset where we give ourselves grace, where we give other people grace.
Yeah.
And I think so many people need to say, like, hey, like, what are the handlebars if I want to reset how I'm living? What would you say those, like, the first few things, maybe 2 or 3 things that people need to hold on to so they can say, like, tomorrow?
Yeah. I think for me, like, the first thing is to understand, like, have the understanding that everyone is in process, right?
So
everyone needs to, continue. Like, no one has their life together. Whether they put on a front that, like, they are successful or not, or, they've made it or not. Like, I feel like that's such a subjective, like, thought and understanding. But, everyone needs to, like, understand that, you are meant to be where you're at. Like, God has a plan for you, and that's something I have to remind myself of every day. But God has a plan for you, and, if I might be in a season of process and of understanding, like, I will have a sense of, I will maintain my sense of purpose through, like, my spiritual purpose, and everything else will be taken care of as long as I make sure that, I'm putting in the effort, whether that be with relationships, whether that be with profession, and that I, give myself grace. And I understand that, I can't set myself to the same standard as everyone else. Everyone has their own level of where they need to go in life, what their standard of success is. So, I think in this day and age, like, with comparison with social media and whatnot, like, we garner success versus we garner success based on, like, where other people are at in life. And for me, it's a constant reminder of, I am on my own path, I'm on my own journey, and how do I navigate that from a sense of potential, from a sense of opportunity, instead of from a sense of comparison.
So good. Man, I'm excited about your life.
Yeah.
I'm excited about being in it. I love you. I love where you're going. And I just can't wait to pray for you. I'm just expectant, man. I'm just expectant for how you're going to be used to impact people and culture and all that comes with that. Because you have such high character. Like, you're not trying to, pull one over on anyone or fake anything. I've never known you to be that. So, man, I'm excited about your life.
Thank you, man.
No
I
problem.
appreciate it.
No problem, bro.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that, I try to pride myself on is I try
It's
to
good to be proud, by the way, if in, like, areas of our life.
Well, I try to pride myself on being my authentic self no
Right.
matter what situation I'm in.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
And
that's
I
good
think,
to be. Yeah, that's awesome.
I think that kind of cultivates a understanding for everyone else that comes in contact with me, that I'm going to be who I am no matter what situation I'm in. whether that be from a professional stance, whether that be from a relationship stance, a friendship stance with others. I think, remaining true to yourself is something that provides others with the understanding that, I'm not dealing with someone that, is trying to take advantage of me, or I'm not dealing with someone that wants to put on this front that they've made it, or put on this front, like, I want to be as transparent and authentic as possible. And I feel like that allows me on a relationship stance to be more like understanding and or to be more accepted and trusted by whoever I come in contact with.
I think if we could live a life where we're proud of how much effort we gave toward things that matter, that's what I hear you saying.
Yeah.
Like, what if we could live a life or have a day where we're just proud of the effort we gave? We're not worried about the outcome. We're not prideful in saying that it was ourselves. We're just proud that we were able to give it our all, and we can give credit to those involved.
Yeah.
Both the people that support us, that pray for us, that care for us, and then the Lord having his way in and through our life.
Yeah.
Like, we can't lose.
Yeah.
We can't lose like that.
Yeah. And, with that, like, I think, that plays an important role in how you, like, how you value or what your expectation of success is in your life. And, for me, I'm still trying to figure out, like, what I've made it looks like, So if I approach that with the amount of effort I put in on the day-to-day, with the amount of impact that I try to have with whoever I come in contact with in life, if I base my success off of that, then I feel like I can't lose.
So good. Well, man, like, I think this was phenomenal. I think people are going to be encouraged by this. And if somebody wants to connect with you, whether it's in the creative world or creative spaces, or just like, follow you as you're in process, maybe encourage them, how do they connect with you?
Yeah. I am open to, talk to anyone that, can relate to the situation I'm going through, or that just wants to talk through anything. Like, I'd like to think of myself as, an open book. I'm going to try to make the time whenever I can, if you are in need, or if you just want to talk, So I guess the easiest way would probably be like on socials, me being, as involved in socials with, my clients and whatnot. So at TJ Gnarly would probably be the easiest way.
Care to spell that real quick?
Yeah, GNARLY.
There we go. Love it.
TJ Gnarly.
I just thought that was probably pretty good for us. So, man, excited about it. Thank you guys for joining. Let's take advantage of the vantage points of the people that are actually in our life. That's why that's why this podcast is called Vantage, Full Vantage, is because if we can learn from others, then we can actually take an advantage of being in community, whether it's digitally or in person or across the country. So, man, I'm excited about this. Let's get after it, and see you soon.
I love you, brother. I'm so proud of you.
Oh, thanks, man. Love you too. Let's go.